All right. I think we're gonna get going to it right away. Um, so we're looking at our website is on Gatsby, and we were going to be converting parts of it that are just straight HTML that's been exported out of Webflow into pure Gatsby, which will be nice as far as DX1 we're working on it. We've got some setup to make it easier right now, and Webflow was added essentially because we were in a pinch and we wanted to get something out quick. But we're starting to feel that pain, which was to be expected, and now we need to deal with it. So part of helping us in this conversion and doing design system updates will be to add in BigTest and interactors, which is two other code bases that we've been working on and are implemented in client work. So we're going to be using the BigTest runner as well. And I think, what do we, yeah, we still do have this on Yarn. So I think we can pretty much just, let's go ahead and just run a Yarn to make sure we've got everything up to date here. Good. I think we're basically just going to walk right through the tutorial here. Switch that to Yarn. Oh yes, so we do have a workspace. Let's flip over to the code here. So we do have it isn't a workspace because we have some plugins that are pulled in via a workspace, which I don't know that we necessarily need to do, but the workspace is specifically looking at this package JSON and installing this. So we're getting the hoisting for these, and it's sort of nice to have that separation there. So I think we're going to keep that, but we do, when we're installing dependencies, we are going to need to do the -w to put it in the root. Because for the most part, that is actually our package JSON. Bunch of installs. So I think we can essentially write a init. We're going to be using this pretty directly. So I think we can essentially use this directly and then effectively copy and paste this. And we'll see what it does. We are going to be using the start command. It's going to take a little bit to start up, so it'll be interesting to see how BigTest reacts to that. It's supposed to have the built-in waits, but Gatsby it's going to be a long wait. Oh, tricking me here. Come on, Yarn. Okay, so these drivers, those are being pulled in through BigTest, and those are actually going to be what opens and runs our tests. So all of our tests and interactors are run in the browser, and BigTest is orchestrating that for us. Go back to the installation that were installed. Run yarn BigTest init. What port would we like to run BigTest on? I don't think it matters that much. So I think we'll just go with the defaults here. Yes, we would appreciate that. All right, what command do we want to start? Yep, that's good actually. I think that's fine. I'm not sure this. I don't know if that's supposed to be the Gatsby port or not. We'll find out, I guess. And we need to access it on Gatsby. I believe uses 3000. So. We're gonna say no because we don't actually have. Oh, hey Ryan. Not paying attention to chat, I guess. How are you doing? We're gonna say no because we don't actually have TypeScript in here. We tend to use TypeScript in many of our code bases, particularly because our clients get the return on that investment. But we don't have TypeScript in this code base, and I don't know that it makes sense to try to type Gatsby. And there we go. Okay. So now we have our BigTest.json, and it's added. And I think that looks good. So now we need to make a test file, I'm presuming. So this is what was created. And here's our first test. So we're just going to go ahead and straight up copy that. So the test files are expected to be in a test directory based on our configuration, which sounds perfectly fine with me. So we're going to first say test slash. The main thing that we're looking to test here is that it's nice because Gatsby creates all the URLs for us. And it means that we can spin up a lot of content, and we don't necessarily need to think about the slugs that come out of it. But the downside of that means that it's easy to accidentally change a slug and then just fork our SEO on that. So we've done a little bit to help make sure that our URLs are stable and the changes that we make are anticipated. And I think most of what we're going to be checking in these few tests is to check that our links between pages is in a good working state. So I think we're just going to call it I think we just call it links.test, which feels funny, but we can always change it later. So we have a couple of imports. These are re-exported from interactors. Page.visit, step, yeah. Text field. Oh, it looks like we don't have heading. Interesting. It looks like we might not have text field imported. So kind of as we're going through, I'm going to be taking some notes things that might end up needing fixing. BigTest on frontside.com. We don't really need from header on this. So first test example may be missing the text field import. All right, so to run our test now, we do have test script, but nothing is actually set up there. So we've created a test directory, we've made this file. Now we should be able to run it. This touches on interactors a little bit, which I sort of offhandedly mentioned. Test order. I'm gonna go ahead and drop, I think this is the right URL, right? Interactors. We are currently working through this. Anybody else wants to check it out? So we want to run BigTest test. And I think what I'm going to do is actually set our default test to BigTest CI, and then we're going to add those as additional commands. BigTest CI. So the test server is the sort of the orchestration piece, and that it is the thing that controls your browsers. So you can actually test in multiple browsers at a time, which is one of the things that is interesting about BigTest. So you are able to do something where you can test in Chrome, Firefox, and something like a emulated app, or like an iOS screen, or Android or whatever. So most of the communication happens over WebSockets. So as long as WebSockets are supported, BigTest can orchestrate and communicate between these. And all of the actual test running is happening in the browser, which means we don't have to do that jump through the hoops that we need to when working with something like JS DOM, which is what Jest and others, I believe, rely on. I think Cypress relies on that. Ooh. I'm not certain on Cypress, but I know Jest uses JS DOM. Yeah, I think Cypress uses it. But any of the like test renderers, those tend to use JS DOM, which means that you start running into like it needs to work in Chrome and the browser. Or excuse me, it needs to work in Node and the browser. So we're gonna say we're gonna go test server. We're gonna say this should be BigTest server launch Chrome. And we can always run these directly, but it'll be kind of nice to have these in the package JSON so somebody can, that's just topping in this code base kind of as an idea how to run these tests. So test server starts up the server, and then we want to have the command to run the tests. That should be, oh, and I guess test server will also start your app because we have added it to the Where'd you go? BigTest.json. We've given it the command, so it's going to be running app when we start the BigTest server, among things like the Chrome WebDriver. Okay, so test, I guess we can just call it test run. BigTest test. Open two tabs here. Frontside.com. We're going to say yarn test server. So we're getting a TS error. I don't know if that's going to end up being an issue. Stack. Yeah, so you can tell a lot of our testing has been done with TypeScript floating around. So we might run into a situation where for our setup, we will need to add TypeScript until we deal with a couple of these random errors that are floating around. So here's our test window. And now we can do yarn test run. Yes, so Babel preset TypeScript. I think we're gonna have to end up adding it in. We'll see what that ends up giving us. It's not really gonna end up running on any of our code. I don't think so. Make a note about that. There appears to be errors related to types to the expectation of TypeScript. See below. All right, so we added that. We ran the init without the TS option. And when we first started it, we got this. I'll just copy this whole thing. On first run of the BigTest server, we received the following error. Okay, so our resolution was that. We will see if it ended up making a difference. So we're still getting an error. But we're getting less of an error. Does it also expect tsconfig.json? So as far as BigTest and interactors go, BigTest is still, we're kind of considering it alpha, and we have gone through a couple of iterations of it throughout client projects to where it has reached the point it's at right now. There's still some things that need to be cleaned up and errors like these resolved, but it's generally pretty workable. The current target is effectively just browser, and that's one of the things that would be nice to add before we sort of take this further, is node, the ability to test the node environment, and that would require a node agent. That's sort of on the it's on the to-do list to get that out, but we've been pushing other things further that will end up working with and integrating into BigTest. And one of those things is the interactors, which is what hopefully we can get into a little bit deeper here. And those are quote unquote a beta release. And we have a couple good working examples of those. And I've worked with this is I guess this is the first time that I'm using BigTest in a quote unquote a real world environment. But I've used the interactors in multiple places now. So it seems to be running. Okay, and this is what I was expecting. Cannot run tests. Import from that. Oh, maybe that's not what it's expecting. So we're getting an unexpected token. So it seems that it's expecting to bundle our tests. Cannot run tests to build errors. So we might end up needing to add in a TS config just to make this happy, at least for the moment. So I'm expecting there to be an error with this text field because I think we're missing that import in our doc example. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's expecting this TS config. So we do have, if I recall correctly, we do have a TS config that gets added if one doesn't exist. So it seems that with newer versions of TypeScript, we might be running into this error. And we're not getting any, no inputs were found. Include pass were everything and exclude pass were nothing. Heck, it could be. So I think what I'm gonna try, parallel testing, next steps. So I think we're pretty much, the guide that we have on the runner is rather slim at the moment. Like I said, the interactors have been pushed a little bit further forward. Architecture goes to the about. Okay. So I know we did Spike on integrating this with, I think it was Stripes testing. I don't think that's it. Could be in here. Tests. Harness helpers. Back in my brain here. Oop. Did I get it right? Yeah, we did. Repositories. He's from Texas, can you tell? I think he might have pushed it to his branches. Stripes testing main, that. But I don't see any big tests there. Integrate big test. There we go. Here, BigTest.json. Okay, I know we had some example floating around. So they're using Parcel to do it. Headless Chrome, I saw. Do we have a TS config? Tests. JS. I don't think this is Redux form helpers. Oh. Interesting. For test from BigTest. So it doesn't look like they have TS config in here. That's interesting. I wonder why. I wonder why we are getting an error and this theoretically hasn't. Okay. Let's try adding in TS config. Oops, not yarn. So include, we want it to be tests. Why are you barking at me? No inputs were found. Oh, I wonder if it's because it's expecting a .ts file. That could be. Yeah. Dot test .js. But I think we're still gonna have that error. Yep. And I think this error came up because I just closed the window. So no inputs were found. I think there's a TypeScript config. I think there's an option to add in and add to the include define.js files too. Include.js. Well, that's not gonna be. I want all the JSONs. Start. Oh, I guess I don't actually need to do .js. I suppose I can do that. I like that better. Which is actually what I think the default one. Oh no, it does do. Yep, that is the default. Except not just in tests. TypeScript include JS files. That is, I think, going to be our ticket here. Go away. Go away. There we go. That appears to be better. So we're not getting any errors. I think it's still showing an error because it hasn't refreshed there. And hopefully when we run, still the same error. Unexpected token. Okay, cannot write file. Interesting. All right, let's see what the default BigTest is. Maybe that will help us out here. Imagine it's in the bundler. Let's try searching for include I guess the include pass for that. Yeah. Try searching for this. I think it's gonna not work because of the stars. Yeah. In this repository. Those are all the TS configs directly. Sample, website sample. Yeah, it's not gonna help us out. This is real interesting. I'm sort of surprised that we're running into this. We might do, let's try doing redoing that in it. And I'm curious what's gonna happen if we kind of delete this. Yes, I do. Yes, yes, Yep. Yes, let's try doing it with... Yes, we do. That works for me. Okay, so now it's pointing to tsconfig, and it's filled it out for us. And that feels better. But we're still finding that. We're still not finding it because it's expecting it to be TS. I might just, what was that? Allow.js. We might just bite the bullet and write our tests in quote unquote TS. But basically just ignore all the type parts of it. Compiler options. Okay, so no errors, so it means that it's finding our test. And here is our home window. Huh. All right. I'm wondering if this might just be a poor error message. So if we just say, like, let's just do this. We want to test visiting the homepage. Let's see what that gives us. I wonder if there's an expectation that if you're writing in JS that it's going to be oh, I think I just saw what the error was. Nope. Backticks. I wonder if that's it. Come on. Test. Hey. There's backticks in the example. Okay, so Gatsby is running now. Could not receive episodes. Oh, okay. This is fine. So within our Gatsby site, we have an integration with Simplecast to pull in our podcast episodes. So that's what this error is. So that the issue was actually that it wasn't a TypeScript issue necessarily. I wonder if we could just remove this. We're probably going to have to say allow.js. That's probably what's missing in our template. Should we add in allow.js through to the tsconfig default template? So I'd imagine that if you're not using TypeScript, you're probably going to be using a .js, and I think that's what's happening. So it's trying to bundle, it's looking for it, and it's failing because it can't find any test files because it's expecting it to be a .ts. So I think for this, currently we're going to need to keep our ts config in here just to let us write in JavaScript. So now the error that we're running into, we are missing the environment variable. And we actually have it set up with netlify to pull in the environment variable. So I think rather than running yarn start, we do yarn start. I think I add another command. Because really we should be using netlify for this, but it's not obvious, and I've definitely, I know Jorge has run into this too, where we try to run it and we forget that this is expected to be run using netlify and having that environment variable in there. So what should I call this? Maybe that, and that should let us run dev. Netlify toml, where are you? Dev. Yep. So I think this should give us our Gatsby develop. Oh, yep, we need to update our BigTest. Because now we need to do start and TL. We are still getting start NTL, netlify dev. Yarn start NTL. I wonder if we have some issue with that start command that actually parses the colon differently. Because it's definitely running NTL dev. So how's everybody doing? Yep. Still running Gatsby develop. Why? Oh, I bet you the config gets loaded from the server. Yeah, we're gonna go back to the colon because that's what I've been using for everything else. If that's what this is, we're probably gonna want to add in some sort of watcher that watches that config. That'll at least restart the server. Twitch makes you shy. Well, if you are not busy, you can hop in here. You can show up in that is it this? Do the Brady Bunch thing right there. How's the vanilla extract test been going? Test run. Hey, we got a different thing. Proxy error is interesting. But we have progress. So, let's add in a note here. Whenever we change the, what is it, BigTest.json? BigTest.json, we need to restart the BigTest server. Can we watch this file for changes? Cool. In 1Password, there's the links to the room. Here, I think I might need to have it open first. Let me open up the director thing. Doing it on the side here. Here, Twitch, this, and open. Okay. So if you go to that and you open the guest 1 website, put in the password, it should show up here, and then I can pull you in. How's the text size, by the way, on the screen? Is it pretty readable? Seems like it is not terrible. Okay, so we got a test run. It says it's success. Cool. It says it is a success, but we're getting this proxy error failed. So it's trying to proxy to this, and I wonder if Gatsby doesn't like specifically the 127. And it's surprising how fast it ran. Oh, I know. We're not actually doing any assertions. We removed the assertions. Because we thought that was giving us errors. Let's go ahead and add that back in. I mean, that's fine. Stuff is going to error out. It's not going to work, but it'll at least let us know if this is the real issue. This is like in an error state now, so I'm not sure if we need to restart a server. We'll find out. Okay, here we go. I was expecting to see that, so it's good that we're getting that now. Because we use it here, and we did not import it. All right, I see you in. There we go. Can you hear me? Pretty slick, eh? I can. It takes a little bit to set it up, but once now that we have these rooms set up and whatnot, it makes it really easy. So like Taras just we'll have to play around with it a little bit, but here can I share my audio? All right, can you hear me through video.ninja? Test, test. Live testing here. Okay. So I think if you mute the stream, then you can listen to me through video.ninja, and that'll be more real time. Oh, did you open it up through Safari, or did you open it up through something else? Okay, good. Safari has an issue, I think, if you click away from the tab, it like backgrounds the sound. So it does recommend using Chrome. We actually ran into that yesterday when Tras hopped on. He clicked away and then just was muted. That's funny. We did do this yesterday. So I can start virtual camera and this. So now I'm streaming my camera to video.ninja and theoretically don't need to keep the stream open. It is. Max res. As long as you can read it too. Okay. Okay, so it's syncing up a little bit. Here, I can bump up my Oop, wrong button. There we go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh no. Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's like the compiled one already. Is there? Yep. Yep. And that, I mean, that might be something where we're going to be doing it in other places as well. So the DX around this is painful, but we can, like if we're doing it in Gatsby or 11D or something like that, we can just pull that over and we don't need to worry too much about the DX and type doc. Do they don't have a flag or anything like that to, like a watch command or anything, do they? Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Guess I'm not terribly surprised about that. Yeah, I mean, it it is still like a what 0.30 or something like that, so it's um does it use a material UI? Okay. That's funny. All right. So we've worked through a couple areas, and I don't know when you hopped in, but I've been taking notes on getting it set up. Nice. Um, so I've got a bunch of good notes ready on little things that we can fix or deal with. And so we seem to be able to visit the homepage, and now we're making an assertion. And we want to click on About. Well, we're asserting that it exists. So let's see if that runs correctly, and then we can run it again without that. Have you used BigTest much? I mean, I started the stream with, this is probably the first time that I've used it in a real world situation. I've like dug into the code and fixed things, and I've used interactors in Cypress and Mocha, Cypress and Mocha. But I haven't actually used it in BigTest yet, so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely still a alpha thing, yeah. And I mean, honestly, that's part of the reason that I think it's nice to pull in BigTest into this, because it gets more people. Yeah, and it gets more of us exposed to it directly, and it's, you know, it serves as a good example on what we can do with it. You know, it's more like a more public-facing example than the client work we've done. So it almost seems like it's timing out here, because Gatsby takes forever to run, and these are all. Yeah. Um. Yeah. And I have it running the netlify command right now, so we're getting now the token. But there, I wonder if actually we just start it up separate. If we start up Gatsby separately. Uh huh. Uh huh. I think I just can take out the command. Oh wait. So I'm not sure what this port is. Oh, it's an env. So you're setting the port for this command. Environment variable for that. Got it. Got it. So this actually is not doing anything for us here. So this would be like if your app can run with a configurable port. So you could say I want to run it on port this instead. So I think we can just take this out. I'll restart the BigTest server and then I'm just going to start it up separately. We'll do this. We'll do this. Frontside.com. Okay, so this should start up our orchestrator. We'll have Gatsby running, and then I think our test can just point at that instead. Because otherwise, when you have a command, the idea is that it starts up the server, runs the test, then shuts it back down. And that's going to take forever in Gatsby. So this, I mean, we might be able to get this to run locally. It might end up being that it's not waiting long enough when we need to increase the timeout because it's just failing. Oh, and it's also running on a different port. I forgot Nullify does it on a different port. 8888. You should be able to test the live website. Oh, Min was trying to test our website, and I think he was running into CORS issues because the way Netlify has things configured. Okay. So we're getting fails. That's a really minimal UI. Check XX00. So it's probably getting stuck on these child things. So it looks like it's, I mean, all of the server stuff appears to be fine. Let's see if the dashboard gives us anything. Status. Pending. Yeah. Fill it in for me. Pending. Or if I've got some It's interesting that we're getting errors when I Control C. Emitted error event on socket instance. So it's like the socket is, we might not be handling something with the socket. Add that to the notes. Oh, I wonder if we don't need the Babel preset TypeScript anymore. I think I'll probably end up streaming. When did I start? About an hour? A little over an hour now. Probably stream a little bit longer and then I take a stab at upgrading Gatsby v3. It's well, you're still following it even though you're in France now. I mean, even when I went to France, they still ate pretty late. 8 or maybe not 10, but 8 or 9. Ooh. I think somebody's at my. It's just a package. Okay. Yeah, it seems to be getting stuck at this second step. Double check that we can actually get to it. 8888. Yes. Let's try to go to blog instead, /blog. Oh, we also don't have an about. So it should be throwing an error. There you go. Are these actually headings, I guess, is probably the other question. No, they're not. Oh, I mean, I guess it makes sense. That shouldn't be an H1 or anything. Like, why would... I think nav is just like a... I think navs are just supposed to be links. And they're just supposed to be within the nav. Like within a nav. Yeah. Yep. So if we visit that, we want to look at, let's head over to those interactor guides now. Oh, of this? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how the media queries will work with this. When we were running it in Mocha or whatnot, you had to have the screen at the appropriate size, so it would open up the screen for you, and you just had to like resize it to the right size. But I don't know how that ends up working when you run it like headless. I imagine there's, when you run it headless, there's you probably need to give the browser like dimensions. So I suppose that could be, so you can specify multiple like multiple things to launch. And one of them could be like Chrome.headless. So I suppose there could be a situation where you want to do like a configuration that runs it headless, but does it at multiple sizes. That would be interesting to try out. Okay, so we've got I guess we probably want to use the link. It's text field. Text field searches for inputs. Okay, so let's do link. So link, and it is /about, but people is the link. Yep. So let's click on people, or let's make sure that it exists. I wonder if there's some, let's try running this with bash. So I've been using a terminal called new shell, and that's what these colored ones are. And okay, the background comes from, so this whole, well, no, I guess the shell is new shell, the terminal is Windows terminal. So Windows has it's now shipping that as the default one pretty recently, within like the last month or so. But they have like a terminal that works much better than the Windows 98 version that's been sticking around forever. So that's this whole thing is Windows terminal, and it lets you set up profiles for different things to run. So it's gonna effectively become the default terminal in Windows. Yeah. So I've got like a WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, set up, so I can like create an instance directly from here. Or my default is new shell, and I also have git bash. It's gotten a lot better. I did get a Mac though. I've got that sitting next to me. I ended up getting a MacBook Air because it runs just as good as the Pro. And it's lighter and doesn't have a fan, which is kind of nice. Alright, so we need to run. What am I running with? Yarn. No, I forgot my test command. Oh. I've mostly set up all the aliases to work the same between bash and new shell, but there's a couple that I don't have set up between the two. So this ns is supposed to just list all the scripts that I have. So it should be yarn test run. So just make sure it's not a weird new shell thing. Yeah, so there's new shell does echoes formatted slightly different. And we'll put quotes around stuff. And I actually ran into that testing covector because covector outputs the test that I have set up actually output strings to the console, and it all said all my tests were failing because it had quotes around those, where in Git Bash it doesn't. Yeah. So it seems like our server is hanging here, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, and I mean this could very well be to a Windows thing. I don't know. We've done yeah, I got I did a lot of those. But it was all like just making the test pass. So I don't know that I actually we got almost everything resolved except for gracefully shutting down. That's the piece that where we ran into issues. Yeah, this one's still airing out. Interesting. So I think this step is working, and I think this assertion is failing, but it doesn't give you any output. So I think there's some issue potentially with what Gatsby or Nullified Dev is doing. Still seems to work though. I don't know if this will make a difference, but yeah, so we ended up doing an integration with Rust to gracefully shut down a process because Windows and Node just is not capable of cleanly shutting something down. I think it's one of those situations where nobody has had that pain enough to fix it. So, but we ended up writing a little program in Rust, which is the Control C dash Windows, I think. We may make a little binary out of that Rust program and connect it into Node. And that was sort of the last piece that we needed to get working. And we got that all set up, and I don't know that I've actually tried BigTest since. Okay, so it's definitely just hanging there. Yeah, right. Alright. I think what we're gonna do is we're going to. So that's still running. We're gonna go ahead and open this up in Ubuntu. Just to make sure that that's not the issue. And we have to have so yarn install. So the only sort of annoying thing between the two is that when using things like this Control-C Windows, it actually checks your architecture and will dynamically grab like the correct binaries, which is good because it would fail if it didn't have the right one. But it means that if I run it in WSL, it's a different architecture, so I have to reinstall it because it'll actually not grab that binary on the way we have it set up. It won't grab that binary on Linux or Mac because Linux and Mac both have the appropriate signals to gracefully shut down a process. All right, so yarn. Test server. Outside.com yarn test run. And we gotta wait for yarn to complete. It'll probably take. It works a little bit slower when. So you can see here I've got this /mount directory, so I can work through Linux off of the Windows file system, but it works much slower. So there is also a like home directory on Linux that I can work out of, and that runs a lot faster, but it also means I need to like copy the files between them. So I'm hoping that this just finishes. It might not end up working out. Otherwise, I think we've got everything set up correctly. So it's just writing the tests. So I think in our, if I can get these tests working, I'll end up working on the Gatsby upgrade. Then hopefully add in a couple tests, get those merged in first, and then I'll rebase the Gatsby upgrade to double check that things haven't broken in that change. Oh my goodness. 163,000 packages. That's Gatsby for you. Right. That's yeah. I think the idea of Gatsby was good and the direction they were taking it was decent. But like the whole idea of this like data, pulling basically like two separate processes. There's the thing that pulls in all the data, and then there's the thing that like creates the website. But like they got, it's sort of fundamentally two separate pieces, and they sort of all got smushed together as far as functionality goes, and they've never improved the performance of that whole build setup and data sourcing. And they pull in a lot of dependencies to help them do this. So I feel like they did a lot of cool things and then just never actually like took it to completion, which is unfortunate. Like I've heard of people having builds that they take 4 hours to run. This might not end up working out for us. The note that, yep. Okay. Oh boy. Well, this may not end up working out for us. Can't screen share it, but I guess, well, suppose I can commit what I have. So this should theoretically work, and then I can run it on the side on the other computer. So git checkout. BigTest. This is the, so I've got GPG key set up, so it signs all of my commits. And then it gets that fancy little verified tag next to commits. That's the, I think the one last thing that I really need to set up on my my Mac. It's one of those things that I did like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, yeah, something like that. I didn't write it down, so I need to figure out how the heck I did it. But like, here, I've got a PR right here. So I get these little fancy verified badges next to commits. That points to my my key. My goodness, it is still going. All right. Did you wanna try running in this on your computer? Yeah, did you want to try running the test on your computer? See if it's unless you're trying to head out pretty soon. Okay. It is feature/BigTest. Yep. Oh. Yeah, I abbreviate it, but then whenever I tell people the branch name, I always end up like saying the full word. That's definitely tripped up Charles before. Sorry. Do yeah, run yarn. Actually, do you wanna try out your screen share? I think I've got the screen share hooked up too. Yep, there should be like a little computer looking thing at the bottom. There we go. All right, now should be able to do that. Ta-da! Uh-huh. Yarn test as the CI one. I think try doing you'll have to open up like 3 terminal windows to do this, but do yarn start :NTL. That will start up Gatsby. Yeah, I think when we run the CI, that might be something that we'll have to look into further, but I'm not sure how the CI thing, we might end up needing to, when running it in CI, start it up separately or something. I'm not quite sure how that works. Yep. Yarn test server. So that should open up a new Chrome window. Oh, there we go. I would say I think it opens up a test window, yeah. Yeah. Yarn test run. I'm ready. Yeah, so it's a Windows thing. It's a Windows thing. Okay. Honestly, not terribly surprised, but that's good to know. Yeah. So let's. So I think it's just asserting now that people is available. So let's do. Maybe we can write a couple of tests to just click on the links on the top, and then I think that's probably enough to call it a day. I hear ya. I've also gotten used to having my sidebar on the right side. So so this is an assertion that that link exists. I think we can try testing to see if we can click on it. It looks like there's a .child. Oh, so this is the like the structured test part of it. So like you can do so we can have a .step, and we can assert that the link exists and then click on it if it doesn't exist. And like we can have like a tree of tests basically, yeah. And so it could basically be like if the nav doesn't exist, this whole thing would just fail. And it'll fail faster because it's failing at the first step rather than like each test running separately. Try doing it. Dot assertion. Yeah, I would actually say I think you can only have one step, but you can put that link click within the step on line 4. So if you look at the docs, click on runner. Yeah, this is the part that's a little bit new to me too. And it's yep. So yeah, so dot I think you can do dot step if it's within a child. So I think you can do like on that. If you go back to the docs real quick, see where it says this code block right up at the top here. That second dot step that's nested. I think we can basically do it like that. We can either do it as a second step or we can just put all of that within that first step. Yeah. And it's just yep. And then that assertion is going to run to make sure that there's a clickable or something exists on this page. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Um, I'm not certain actually. Yeah. Yeah, let's just try it. So maybe it I mean it's matching directly on the content, so oh. Oh. That is. I kind of actually like that. Yeah. Because we see the big text because CSS is changing it on this. I appreciate that. Okay. And that, yeah, that's the so we could, as we are work, if vanilla extract ends up being the thing we want to go with, we could set up a couple simple elements, and we can either use the built-in interactors directly, or if we start getting to the point where we have like bigger components, we can have specific interactors for those bigger components too. I don't know if we're going to get to that point because that ends up being more of an app situation. Because I think for the most part we can just use the built-in stuff. But yeah, that's where the like using this in a design system ends up being really helpful because you can set up an interactor that works with that design system, and then that can be used anywhere. So like we could, if it's, I mean, for the most part, our CSS is gonna work the way we're gonna end up writing it. It's gonna work in, like we're writing it for HTML, not for like React. So I don't think we'll end up needing to test like overall components or anything, but cool. Well, I'm glad that works. So I think it looks like we've got a little issue with windows that we need to resolve. And we'll probably want to play around a little bit with how this runs in CI. And we can run these tests. Yeah, we can run these tests in CI, and then we'll sort of do a bunch of these like you know, higher functioning tests that test the links between pages. And then that should help when we're tearing out all the Webflow stuff, just to make sure we don't break any random links somehow or change them. Because like we can make the links correct, but we also need to make sure that the links, yeah, going between pages is, yeah. So that's at least what the specific reason that I think this is going to be helpful for us in this migration. If we can test something like Ironically, I've actually used it. Yeah. Yeah, I've so if a podcast app doesn't have it in their system, that's how you add it. You give them the RSS feed. So I think I added it to Player FM because it wasn't there. But okay, cool. I think that's good. Ooh, for you went pixelated. What is going on? There we go. Interesting. Huh. There's a thing called the rainbow puke fix. I wonder if that's what this does. I didn't actually click it, but next time that happens, I'm gonna try it. Huh. Cool. Well, yeah. Well, and thanks for popping in here and helping out. It was cool to actually see this work and the screen sharing thing to work. So cool. Have a good night. And anybody, I think Ryan is still lurking in the chat. Yeah. I definitely see you in the chat. I know Ryan popped in here and said hi. But cool. Yep. Have a good night. Bye.